Hi, my name is Rebecca Miller. I'm 42 years old, a high school teacher, and a mother of two. I live in Boise, Idaho. And what I'm about to share with you changed everything I believed about life and death. I never used to think much about the afterlife. Like most people, I was busy. Work, kids, bills, just trying to survive. I believed in God, sure. But I never imagined that one day I'd find myself dead on a hospital bed, watching my own body from above. But it happened, and I promise you, death is not the end. I saw what's waiting on the other side. I felt it. I stood in it. I saw Jesus, and he showed me things I didn't want to see, things I needed to see. If you've ever wondered what really happens after we die, or whether God is real, or what awaits us beyond the veil, stay with me. What I experienced was not just a near-death experience, it was a divine appointment. Please like this video, and in the comments, tell me what you believe happens after death. And if this story touches your heart, share it. Someone out there needs to hear it. The day. Everything changed. It was a regular Tuesday morning in November. I had just dropped off my kids at school and was heading to St. Luke's Medical Center for a routine checkup. I had been feeling tired for weeks, but I blamed it on work stress and sleepless nights. I never thought anything was seriously wrong. I remember pulling into the parking lot, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup, and checking my phone for messages. Just another day in my busy, ordinary life. But as I stepped out of the car, something felt off. A sudden wave of dizziness washed over me. My vision blurred. My heart started pounding, then skipping beats. My hands went numb. I tried to breathe deeply, thinking it was anxiety. "Come on, Rebecca, get a grip," I whispered. But my body didn't listen. I barely made it through the front doors before everything collapsed. I remember voices, rushed and panicked. Someone caught me before I hit the floor. I could hear a nurse shouting, "Code Blue!" and the clatter of a stretcher being wheeled toward me. My heart was racing, then stuttering, then nothing. Just silence, not sleep, not blackness, a void. It wasn't terrifying, just still. Then I heard something, a high-pitched tone, like a frequency too sharp for this world. And then everything shifted. That's when I began to drift, upward, my life on Earth, everything. I knew everything I held on to was gone in an instant, and I didn't fight it. I felt no fear, just a strange, profound calm. Something deep inside me whispered, "This is it. You're dying." And somehow, I was okay with that. When my heart stopped, I didn't realize it at first. There was no dramatic moment where I thought, "I'm dying." No tunnel yet. No angels. Just stillness. I was lying on a hospital bed, surrounded by people in scrubs, and I could see them, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My body was completely unresponsive. Machines were beeping erratically. A nurse was yelling something about my blood pressure. A doctor pressed hard on my chest. Another one injected something into my IV. But to me, it all felt distant, like watching a movie with the sound turned off. Then suddenly, everything went silent. That flatline tone, that long piercing beep that you only hear in movies, it's real. And it's terrifying. But here's the strange part. When my heart stopped, something else started. My awareness didn't fade. It expanded. I felt myself lifting. Not my body, but me, my consciousness, my soul. Whatever you want to call it. It began to separate from my body. I could feel the moment my spirit detached. There was no pain, no fear, just freedom. I looked down and saw myself. My lifeless body, pale and still on the table, with a swarm of doctors around it. People fighting to bring me back. Tubes, wires, chest compressions. But that wasn't me anymore. I hovered above them, weightless, watching, a silent observer, and in that moment I understood I had died, but somehow I wasn't gone. Something inside me whispered, "This isn't the end, it's just the beginning." Have you or someone you know ever felt like your soul left your body, maybe during a trauma, an accident, or a dream? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story, floating above my body. The moment I realized I was outside my body, everything I thought I knew about life shattered. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating. I was there, fully conscious, floating near the ceiling of the ER room, watching it all unfold like a scene in slow motion. The overhead lights glowed strangely brighter from where I hovered, casting halos around the figures below me. I saw my own body, motionless, pale, almost empty, just a shell. The real me was above, looking down. One nurse was crying, another was shouting out numbers, blood pressure, heart rate, though there was none. A doctor climbed onto the table and began pumping my chest rhythmically. Another one yelled for the defibrillator. The paddles were charged. Clear! My body jolted. Once. Twice. I flinched from the sound, but not from the pain, because I couldn't feel anything in that world anymore. Then something else caught my attention. There was light in the corner of the room, not from a bulb or a machine. This was different. It pulsed. It shimmered. It felt alive. I turned toward it, though I didn't have a body to turn with. It was as if I thought, and I moved. And suddenly, I was being pulled. Not forcefully, not against my will. It was like being invited, drawn by warmth, by peace, by something my soul instinctively knew. But I hesitated. I looked back one last time, at my body, at the people fighting for me, at the life I was leaving behind. It felt like a final goodbye. And then, I surrendered. If you were watching your own life from above, what moment would stand out the most to you? Drop it in the comments. Someone might need to read your words today. The tunnel and the living light. The moment I surrendered, everything changed. The hospital room, the doctors, my body, they all faded, like mist being carried away by the wind. In their place, there was darkness. Not a frightening, evil darkness, just a space without light. A silence so deep it hummed. And then, I began to move. It was like being pulled through a tunnel, not a physical one, but a passage. I couldn't see walls or floors, but I felt motion, acceleration, like my soul was being drawn towards something vast and eternal. And at the end of that darkness, there was light. But not just any light. It was alive. I have no other word for it. This light had presence. It radiated warmth, love, and intelligence. It wasn't cold or blinding. It was gentle, embracing. It reached into me without touching me. It knew me. As I got closer, the light intensified, not just in brightness, but in emotion. Imagine every good feeling you've ever had: peace, joy, safety, belonging, multiplied 1,000 times. That's what this light made me feel. I wanted to go into it. I needed to. Every part of me was drawn like a child running into the arms of a loving parent. And then I realized the light wasn't just light, it was someone. A presence stood in the center of that radiant glow. Not in a human form at first, but as an essence, pure, powerful, and overwhelming in love. And as I got closer, the shape became clearer. Eyes. Arms. A robe that shimmered with colors I'd never seen before. And then I knew, without a doubt, who it was. It was Jesus. He didn't speak. But his presence said everything. His eyes met mine, and I felt a voice inside me. A voice without sound, but filled with truth. Welcome home, Rebecca. Have you ever felt the presence of something greater? During prayer, a crisis, or even a dream? Tell me in the comments. Your story might help someone believe. The moment I saw Jesus, there are no human words that can fully capture what it felt like to stand before him. Jesus wasn't glowing. He was the glow. He wasn't just surrounded by light. He was the source. And his eyes were not of this world. They didn't just look at me, they looked into me. Every layer, every memory, every scar and secret. But there was no judgment in his gaze, only love. Unfiltered, undeserved, unexplainable. I didn't fall to my knees. I didn't even have knees in that place. But if I had, I would have collapsed. In awe. Just being near him felt like being restored from the inside out. All the pain I carried, all the fear, all the regret. It began to dissolve, like shadows under the morning sun. And then, he spoke. But not with his mouth. His words came directly into my soul. They were pure truth. Not just heard, known. Like a memory I had somehow forgotten, suddenly brought back. In full, he said, "You were never alone." I wept. Not with tears, but with my spirit. I remembered every moment I had cried on earth, thinking no one was there. But he had been, every time. Every night I thought heaven was silent. It was him holding me through the pain. He then showed me moments from my life. Not as a punishment, but as a revelation. Moments I had forgotten, times I was kind without realizing it, times I hurt people without intending to. Every act, every word, every choice, it all mattered. There was no condemnation in him, only truth. And it was the most healing, humbling thing I've ever felt. And then he said something I'll never forget. "Now let me show you your life." Through my eyes. Has there ever been a time when you felt seen or loved by God in a way that didn't make sense? Share that moment in the comments. Someone needs to hear it today. The book of my life, when Jesus said, "Let me show you your life through my eyes," I expected something symbolic. Maybe a few memories, a conversation. But what he showed me was everything. It was as if a great living book was opened, except it wasn't made of paper, it was made of light. Each page was a moment, each word a choice. And I felt, not just remembered every detail. I relived the day I held my son for the first time. The warmth of his skin, the way his tiny fingers curled around mine. I also relived the time I lashed out at my daughter when I was too tired to be patient, and saw how deeply it hurt her, even though she never said a word. There was no skipping. No fast forward, no hiding. I watched myself from outside myself. And not just what I did, but why I did it. My intentions, my thoughts, my motivations. Nothing was hidden. And here's the truth that broke me. The small things we do every day, they echo into eternity. A kind word to a stranger, a smile to someone on the edge, a prayer whispered in secret. They mattered more than I ever imagined. But the selfishness, the pride, the gossip I justified, it mattered too. And Jesus didn't gloss over it. He showed me everything, but never to shame me, only to heal me. There was one moment in particular I'll never forget. It was a time I stood silently in church, arms crossed, heart cold, judging someone I didn't even know. Jesus showed me how that person was silently crying out to him that very day, and how I, with my pride, had only deepened their wound. I wept. I wanted to go back, to undo so much. But Jesus didn't let me sink into regret. Instead, he whispered, "This is why I died for you. This is why I forgive." And then he closed the book and held me. Have you ever had a moment where you saw yourself clearly and it changed you? Share it in the comments. You're not alone. Judged with love, the word judgment used to terrify me. I imagined it like a courtroom. God on a throne, a booming voice reading off a list of my failures, and me shrinking under the weight of shame. But what I experienced was nothing like that. There was judgment, yes, but it wasn't cold. It wasn't harsh. It was holy. I stood before Jesus, stripped of excuses. I couldn't justify, spin, or defend anything. In his presence, all truth rose to the surface. It wasn't about rules, it was about relationship, about the condition of my heart, And yet, there was no condemnation, only clarity. He showed me the gap between who I was created to be and who I had become, not to break me, but to restore me. His love didn't overlook my wrongs. It looked them full in the face and said, "I already paid for this." I felt a sorrow so deep, not because I feared punishment, but because I had hurt the one who loved me most. And yet, even in that sorrow, I felt his arms around me, comforting, not rejecting. He said, "You were never meant to carry your shame. That's why I carried the cross." In that moment, I saw what real judgment looks like. It's not God punishing us out of anger. It's God exposing truth so we can finally be free. And then, I felt something I never expected. Joy. Joy that God knows me fully and still loves me completely. Joy that nothing I ever did could make him love me less. Joy that even in judgment, there is mercy. Have you ever feared God's judgment only to discover his grace instead? Tell your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear about his mercy today. The souls trapped in darkness after. I experienced the warmth of Jesus' presence. Something changed. His expression grew more serious, not harsh, not angry, but heavy, like a parent showing a child a hard truth they need to see. Without words, he invited me to follow him. And in an instant, the brightness around us faded. We entered a space that I hesitate to call hell, not because it wasn't real, but because that word carries images that don't do it justice. What I saw wasn't flames and demons. It was something far worse. It was separation. A place where God's presence had been withdrawn, where the light of love no longer reached. And in that absence, what remained was suffering, deep, soul-level suffering. I saw souls, countless of them, trapped in darkness. They weren't being punished like prisoners. They were mourning the truth they had rejected, weeping over the light they had once sensed, but turned away from. Some screamed. Others sat in silence, heads in their hands, their pain beyond physical. It was spiritual loneliness, multiplied 1,000 times. The most haunting thing? Many of them still didn't cry out to God. They cried out in regret, in pride, in blame, but not in surrender. They had clung to their own version of truth, even in the face of perfect love, and now they were left with only themselves. I asked Jesus why he showed me this, and he answered, not with anger, but sorrow. I never created this place for them, but love can't force. It can only invite. And I understood. This wasn't about punishment. This was about choice. He gives us the freedom to choose him, or not. And those who reject him reject the only source of light and life that ever was. Have you ever known someone who seems lost in darkness even while alive? Mention their first name in the comments. I'll join you in praying for them. The mission I was given after witnessing the sorrow of those lost in darkness, I felt crushed. I turned to Jesus, tears in my spirit, pleading, "Why did you show me this? What am I supposed to do with this pain?" And then he looked at me. Not with sadness this time, but with purpose. His eyes blazed with a fire that was both fierce and tender. And in that moment, he spoke words I will never forget. Words that have echoed in my soul every day since I came back. Go and tell them I am real. Tell them my return is near. Tell them they still have time, but not forever. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel capable. I wasn't a pastor. I wasn't holy. I was just a woman from Idaho who taught high school and struggled with doubt and distraction like anyone else. But he wasn't calling me to be perfect. He was calling me to be obedient. He showed me faces. People I knew. People I didn't know. Thousands of them. Each one with a story. Each one walking through life, unaware of how close eternity really is. And he said, "Your story will awaken hearts. Speak it boldly. Time is short." I asked him how. How do I share something so sacred, so unbelievable? And again, his answer was simple. Just tell the truth. I will do the rest. Then, I felt a gentle force, like the wind, but not of this world. It wrapped around me as if heaven itself was pushing me gently toward the edge of this divine moment. You must go now, he said, but I am with you, always. And with that, the light began to fade. My spirit trembled, not in fear, but in longing. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay. Forever. But I knew. I had work to do. Have you ever felt God nudging you to do something, share something bold, even when it scared you? Tell me in the comments. Obedience often starts with one step. Back in my body, forever changed. The transition back was nothing like the peace I had just experienced. I felt it before I saw it. The weight. The heaviness of the physical world crashing back onto me. Pain surged through my chest. My eyes fluttered. Alarms blared. Voices screamed, "She's back! We got her!" And I wanted to cry. Not from pain, but from loss. The presence of Jesus. That light, that overwhelming love. It was gone. Not gone forever, but distant. Like a dream you wake from and desperately try to hold on to. I was back in my body. My arms felt like stone. My throat burned from the breathing tube. Tears leaked from my eyes, and the nurse beside me gasped. She's crying. She's aware. They had no idea. No one in that room knew that I had just stood in the presence of the Savior, that I had seen eternity, that I had heard his voice, that I had been shown things most people will never glimpse until their final breath. The doctors called it a miracle. I call it a mission. In the days that followed, I barely spoke. Not because I couldn't, but because I couldn't explain. How do you put eternity into words? How do you describe being held by the creator of the universe? But slowly, I began to share. First with my family, then my church, then strangers. Every time I told my story, people cried. People listened. People felt it. Not because I was eloquent, but because the truth was alive in it. I'm not perfect. I still have hard days. I still forget sometimes what I saw. But then I remember his eyes, his words. Tell them I am real. So now I'm telling you, not to scare you, not to impress you, but to wake you up. Because this life isn't all there is. And one day, sooner than you think, you will stand where I stood. And what you do between now and that moment, it matters. Have you ever experienced something that completely changed the way you see life? Tell your story in the comments. This is a space for real voices and real truth. I'm not here to argue theology. I'm not here to convince you with fancy words or emotional tricks. I'm just here to tell you, I died, and Jesus is real. He is not a myth. He is not a distant force. He is not just a part of religion. He is alive, he is near, and he loves you more than you can possibly imagine. I saw what waits for us after this life. There is light. There is purpose. There is a love that burns brighter than any pain you've ever known. But there is also darkness for those who choose to walk away from that light. And here's the truth I can't stay silent about. We are running out of time. This world is shifting. Hearts are growing cold. Lies are becoming louder than truth. And still, Jesus calls out, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." He gave me a second chance, not just to live, but to tell you that he's coming back. So please, don't wait. Don't let another day pass without asking yourself the question, am I ready to meet him? And if you've been running, doubting, wandering, it's not too late. He's waiting. If this message touched something deep inside you, say something in the comments. Write, "I choose the light," or tell us your story. You never know who will read it and be changed. Subscribe if you want to hear more testimonies like this, real stories from real people who've encountered the living God. And please, share this video. Someone in your circle is hurting. Someone is searching. Be the light that leads them home.